If you're having a hard time creating engagement with your brand or your personal brand, this video is for you. And in today's video, I want to share with you two simple things that will create engagement, whether it be from launching a brand or growing and scaling a brand. And these are two simple things that I think everybody tends to overlook early on in their adventure. But however, the most successful entrepreneurs are using these things in every single angle that they can in order to continue to grow and monetize their audience. And to even add more authority, I guess, to this video, we even used this in the first WKNDR Collective workshop, in which we created a ton of engagement, a ton of intimacy, which even grew to a larger connection in our first workshop. And if you're interested in viewing that workshop, it'll be in the description box below, and I'll try to ping it here at the end of this video. And at any point, if this message resonates with you and you're looking forward to joining WKNDR Collective, you can join the waitlist in the description box below as well. So let's get started. What is this first thing that people tend to overlook in launching their brand or their personal brand? And it's quite simple, and it's their story. And if you think about this, a lot of people tend to not see the value in their story due to, I think, lack of self-confidence, lack of self-worth, or just the monotony of the life that they live every day. And a good way to put this is like, as an artist and a creative, whenever I shoot with somebody else, I love their videos, I love their looks, I love their perspective, and it makes me almost, I don't want to say degrade mine, but it almost makes me like not see the value in mine. But then the flip happens as they're like, your shots are amazing, these are dope, this is such a perspective, because what we tend to see is our own perspective so much that it kind of gets diluted in our own reality until we start sharing it with others and hearing the impact that our stories have in their lives, if that makes sense. And what you see the most successful people in entrepreneurship and business do is they have such a good personal story. And I think everybody has a good personal story, but they're so good at putting that personal story out there. And what we're going to do first is talk about how that personal story really connects with audiences, because there's so many powerful moments of connection or intimacy. Because if you think about it, no matter who you are and what you've done, you've had a problem in life, and in not finding a solution, you probably had to create a solution to your problem. And then what you realize is you're not the only one with that problem. There's a ton of people out there with the same problem. And if you're a pioneer, you're stepping into this solution first by creating it, and then it's your job to share it with the people. And what people tend to do is they actually start sharing the solution instead of the story, and they need to flip it. If you share the story first, people will understand the solution. So for instance, and to really like anchor this in, I want to share this with you, is a big part of my journey that I overlooked was that I used to be a nurse. And I have a bio degree, I have a nursing degree, and I dropped out of nurse practitioner school and became a creative entrepreneur. And that was just like whatever to me, because I was like, I'm so done with that life. And now I help more people now than I used to help as a nurse, you know? And then the coolest part about this is like, if I really wanted to market it, I could target nurses who are tired and burnt out from nursing and want to create a life as an entrepreneur. Because I've done it, I've walked the path. I know what it's like to like leave a job and really jump into this. But what I've really focused on is helping people leave their 9-to-5 in general, instead of just nursing focus, to creating a life worth living. And in doing so, I'm able to connect with people on so many different levels, because I understand the scarcity of like, I'm losing all my security, I'm not gonna have a guaranteed paycheck. You know, how do I create something and having no background in business and never taking a business class? You know, how do I put myself, you know, there's all these questions that come up. But in sharing my story endlessly, I've endlessly seen the connection points and how it's helped people connect to, I have the answers and I'm willing to share them with you, you know? And that's what you got to think about in your brand and your aspects, is like, you have to create authority with your personal story, because what that authority does is essentially share the journey you've lived that connects with other people, where you're going to, and where your destination is. And as soon as people can realize that you're going to the same destination, or they're on the same path as you, they know that you've been through the struggles, the hardships, you've made all the mistakes, and essentially that's what you're helping them through by charging your rate and your fees or whatever your service cost is. You're helping them expedite the process, and you're also helping them get to the solution with less mistakes, if that makes sense. And the best way to put that out there is not through your solution, it's through that personal story. It's sharing your story, it's sharing your journey, it's sharing all those hard moments, it's sharing the vulnerabilities, it's sharing every aspect that kind of you don't want to share because you don't see the value in it, but it's where all the value lies. And as soon as you start putting out that personal story, and I don't mean just try it once. Don't do that. Try it multiple times. Try it at multiple angles. I could talk about how I hated my job and how I just wanted to search for something else. Or I could talk about how I tried to help people and now I'm truly helping people, or how I left my job as a nurse to create a creative business. There's all these different ways to tell the story, and what you have to do as the person who's lived it is experiment with which angle of the story is most connecting to your audience. And you'll know it when they start engaging, and that's a huge secret is, and a lot of people, and why I'm sharing this with you is a lot of people will put out that story once and they're like, nobody engaged with it. And it's like, that's a sign that that angle didn't work. So now you got to turn the wheel one notch. Think about 12 notches here. Turn it one notch and try it at a different angle and say, and I don't know specifics to your story, but you got to think about it as in a way of like, okay, it's an experiment. That experiment didn't work. On to the next angle. And keep experimenting, and I guarantee you one will work, and you'll find an angle that really connects with your audience. And then I think that wraps up point one. Tell your personal story. Now, if you made it this far in the video, I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit more value here with you. Because in order to really connect with your personal story, the second thing that we're going to talk about is vulnerability. Vulnerability is the key, I think, to unlocking your personal story. Put that key in there, unlock it. Because vulnerability has this magical power, if it's not icky. I really want to sink this in. It's like, don't tell your story from the icky side. And that one's really hard to describe the logistics of, but it's like, don't tell it from the side of the victim. Maybe that's the simplest way. Tell it from the side of the hero. Tell it from the side of the person who has gone through the trials and the tribulations and found a solution and overcame the hardships. Share it from that hero's perspective. Because if you share it from a victim's mentality, number one, you're not going to like who you attract. And number two, people aren't going to see you as a hero. They're going to start trauma bonding with you. And that is something that you don't want to get into. But when you start being vulnerable and sharing your journey from the side of the hero, what you do is you start creating all these points of intimacy and connection. And as you share some of the harder, most vulnerable aspects of yourself, you're going to give people in your community and people in your audience points to connect with you on, because they feel that you put yourself out there and put yourself out there in such an honorable way that they want to share how inspired they are with you. They want to share something that they haven't wanted to share with other people because they feel like they've truly connected with you, and you've created this emotional connection. And in that emotional connection is where the true magic starts to happen. That's where people start engaging. That's where people start sharing their journey with you. That's where people start sharing the inspiration that you've given them. And the feelings of all this stuff coming to the surface feels so good. And it doesn't take any extra, effort or money or time to really put this stuff out there, because you don't have to memorize it. You don't have to essentially, pitch it or get creative in your story. You just have to start sharing it, and you just have to be vulnerable, and you have to share some of those aspects about you that maybe you're afraid to, And I'd even say in this video, like, something on my journey that I've been afraid to share is like, I failed a drug test as a nurse. And what's funny is like, they tried to say I was high at work and I wasn't, but I had, THC in my bloodstream, and they pinned it against me, and I hated that so much. But what's funny is I'll tell people now, and the more I connect with them, I'll share this with you, is like, I didn't fail a drug test. I passed the test of life in giving up my career as a nurse, and that was actually my only exit out of it, because I would have never left nursing. I'm so resilient. I'm so just like hard-headed and grit that I'll continue through something until like I get pushed out. And if I hadn't failed that drug test, then I would have never, left nursing. And in failing that drug test, like, it was honestly what I needed to shut the door on nursing, drop out of grad school, and really start my career as a creative entrepreneur. And I wouldn't have jumped into what I did because I wouldn't have been forced into it, And in knowing that, like, it's not something that I'm proud of that I failed the drug test, but I know very importantly in my life that it was a big key to where I'm at now and the journey that I'm on, and the people that I'm able to actually help now as a creative entrepreneur. I'm helping more than I was as a nurse because I failed that drug test. And that's what I essentially mean in the story of like, the victim would be like, work snuck up behind, they treated me like shit, and a lot of things did happen, but they drug test me and tried to say I was high at work, and all this resentment and anger in this story, rather than like, the flip side is I failed a drug test, and that was passing the test of life to step into my next journey, to let go of what wasn't serving me, and to truly find fulfillment and passion in helping others. And as you kind of see, I can take the momentum of that story and really share it as it is, rather than stepping into the hardships and the negativity and the victimization of it all. And if you're somebody who maybe feels trapped in their career, or maybe it's gone through trials and tribulations and it had some really bad stuff happen lately, and what I would even share with you, and what you're probably connecting to in this video, is like, those bad things don't happen for no reason. Like, they help us move to where we need to be because we're not moving with our own free will. And I think that's one of the most powerful things, is just understanding that aspect. And what I'd share with you is, in those hardships and those trials and tribulations and all that tough stuff that you've been pushed through, those are key milestones and anchors in your story that you can help connect to your audience. And what you need to do is you need to share those with people in different ways. And don't try to share them all at once. And even this video could be a lot to process. I do understand that. But my goal is to put out a video that really connects with a lot of people at different angles, so I can understand which aspects to go deeper into. For instance, if you see my personal channel, like, ayahuasca is blowing up on that channel. And what I've learned is people really want me to talk about ayahuasca on that channel. And it's been profound in my life. So what you need to do is put your story out in all these different angles. And by that I mean, like, mine could be like going into nursing school and knowing that I hate it, becoming a nurse and hating it, failing a drug test, starting my first business, failing my first business venture, being a travel nurse. There's all these different angles, and what I can do is talk about those and test those and see which ones people are most engaging with. And when one hits, I know to focus on that. And then I can try to add another aspect in through that angle. So for instance, on my personal channel, ayahuasca, like I said, is blowing up. So I'm like, okay, so ayahuasca we know hits. Now let's start stacking business stuff on it. So for instance, ayahuasca really helped me see business and understand what I'm here to do and how I'm here to help the world. So by knowing ayahuasca connects, I can start connecting with ayahuasca and saying, like, here's one thing ayahuasca showed me in business that I'm here to do, and here's how it relates to anybody watching this video. You see? But it's like, I know ayahuasca is an entry point, and it's a search term, and it's a connection point. And then beyond that, people go to business. Beyond business, I think community building's next. Beyond community building, it's just like finding that string, but then also knowing that there's different things I can talk about beyond the entry point. And you do that by being vulnerable and sharing those hard things with people that you might not want to, because in those hard things lies things that truly connect with people. But overall, in being vulnerable and sharing your personal story, you're going to see an engagement start to inflate around everything you're doing. Because what you're doing, you're not selling a product anymore. You're not selling your solution, which I said a lot of people tend to do. What you're doing is you're selling emotional connection. And in a world that's driven by AI and technology, and after COVID-19 and being isolated, people are craving emotional connection more than ever now. Though they might deflect it and push away from it, the more you can emotionally connect with an audience at different angles, on different feelings and different energetic vibrations, I would say, the more you're going to be an attractive force in this world. And the less you're going to have to market, the less you're going to have to spend on ads, the less you're going to have to try to memorize scripts and videos. By simply just connecting with an audience on an emotional level and a different feeling, and taking them from this feeling to another feeling that's more empowering, more helpful, more higher vibration, such as authenticity, the more you're going to see everything around you grow. And that is a guarantee that I can share. And if you've made it this far in the video, what I would do is tell you to watch the video that's going to pop up here. This is going to be the WKNDR Collective workshop. And in that workshop, we talked about getting over the fear of vulnerability, or the fear of being seen, the fear of the unknown, and the fear of success, or the fear of judgment. And in doing so, getting over those fears, you can start to share your story, and you can start to share your story vulnerably to help connecting with your audience, as it helps open the door for them to start engaging with you. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And once again, if you're not in WKNDR Collective and you'd like to join, check in the description box below for the wait list. We do launch in series, and when you do, we'll send you a notification that the doors are open and we have X amount of spots that we're ready to fill. I'd love to see you in the next WKNDR Collective call or workshop. And once again, check out that video up here for the first WKNDR Collective workshop to help you get over those fears, to start being vulnerable and sharing your story with your audience today.